The attitude of, it's good enough, that's an extremely quick way to become irrelevant in this business. It cost me $1,500 to produce that video, and it's generated over $3.5 million in my business. Yeah, I think the power of the first 10 seconds in your video is everything. Video matters in this business. Your website matters in this business. If you're a $20,000 keynote speaker, your website better look like a $20,000 website.
I don't care what you think, I'ma just do me, and I wanna hear you sing. I got superpowers, superpowers. I got superpowers, superpowers. I got superpowers, superpowers. Working 7 days a week and 24 hours.
Clint Pulver, welcome to the show and welcome to Become Your Own Superhero.
I'm honored to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, con gusto, as they say in Spanish. And Clint, you may not know this about me, but I've been privileged to spend quite a few months living in Utah in the last couple of years in Highland and American Fork.
That's awesome. It's a good place.
Great place, full of great people. And just for the folks at home, where are you dialing in from today?
I'm in Utah, just a little bit south of Heber City.
So I looked up ChatGPT and I wanted to get some information about Heber City. And, it's obviously a beautiful place and there's hikes and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, give me some notable people out of Heber City. And it gave me some Nordic cross-country skiers. And I said, what about Clint Pulver? And then it gave you a bit of a breakdown about some of your background, which we'll get into in a minute. But I was like, what does Clint need to do in order to get an automatic recognition from AI when we search? And he says, to become a more widely recognized and automatically notable person when search, Clint Pulver can undertake several strategies to boost his visibility and influence. Expand media presence, increase online engagement, public speaking at events, collaborate with influencers and awards and recognitions, books and publications, leverage SEO and online presence, online courses and webinars, community engagement, networking. Now, I don't know about you, Clem, but I don't know how much more you could do to get your name out there into the world.
That's right. I guess I need to just do more of it.
So for the folks at home, stick around today. Clint is an extraordinary transformational speaker, brilliant author, a fascinating helicopter pilot and father and everything in between. And if you're looking for a gap in your life that needs plugging to help take you along to the next step in your life, this is going to be the conversation you're going to want to hear today. And Clint, I really wanted to start off today with a question for you. What's currently on your heart that's a major priority in your life that you're dealing with?
100% always my family and my faith. Those are the two central focus points of everything that I do on and off the stage, everything I do in my secular life, everything I do, even my passions, it all typifies to my faith and my family.
So outside of family and faith, what are the topics of interest that are on your mind at the moment?
Yeah, so right now we just launched a new YouTube series called Finding Hill, and it's documenting my journey back into the world of aviation. I was a pilot 18 years ago, and I had a medical disease with my eyes, and I was going blind, and I lost my medical, and I wasn't able to fly anymore, and I won't ruin the story. You'll have to go watch the series on YouTube, but through a series of some amazing miracles, I'm able to fly again, and we purchased a helicopter in the UK that has never been seen before, and it's changing the game of aviation, and it's just a wild and full-on passionate adventure in the pursuit of happiness and joy and purpose.
For the folks at home, we'll have the link to the YouTube series in the show notes, but I've watched both of the available ones so far, and one thing that really struck me, Clint, and it struck me all about everything that I've come to know about you in the research I've been doing, is that the production quality of everything that you touch is probably some of the best I've ever seen. And given you are, on the surface of it, a one-man show, and I know that's probably not the case, I'm fascinated to know, as a fellow content creator and speaker and whatever you want to call it, what are you doing that's so different to other people that makes you stick out like that? Because it's just phenomenal to me.
I think for me, I've always strived to be very hands-on in my content creation. I'm writing, I'm directing, I'm storyboarding, I'm visualizing it. I'm going through and editing specific clips. And again, just trying to tell the best story possible. And I think sometimes as content creators, it's here's a bunch of footage, here's a bunch of content, and we hire it off to a team and chop it up and give me something that I can put on social media. And there's definitely some pros to that, but for me, I think the differentiating factor has been the involvement and the hands-on and how much I care about the story and what it invokes in people. And so I think that would be a little bit of the secret sauce, maybe.
Do you get other people commenting similar feedback to you?
I do. I mean, still to this day, the number one keynote generator in my business came from a video called Be a Mr. Jensen. And it has over 9 million views across all of the platforms that video lives on. And I mean, it won an Emmy award. Like, that's kind of crazy. You know, it cost me $1,500 to produce that video, and it's generated over $3.5 million in my business. So I would say, yeah, the quality has made a difference, and the market and the audience has definitely taken note of that.
Well, I love that. And look, a large number of the audience will be people in that entrepreneurial space. A lot of them will be speakers and writers and coaches, that type of thing. Like, what, you know, you would easily be recognized as one of the top paid speakers in the world, I would imagine, certainly in North America. What advice would you give to, let's say, me, right, who's 4 years into this and still at times finding his feet? What would be your specific advice for someone like me with regards to the way that I need to present my website and any content that's on there that's really going to make the most amount of impact and compress time the fastest?
Yeah, I think the power of the first 10 seconds in your video is everything. Video matters in this business. Your website matters in this business. If you're a $20,000 keynote speaker, your website better look like a $20,000 website. Your book better look and feel and be that level of quality. Your keynote must be amazing. You must be astonishing on stage. You could be the most brilliant marketer. That will get you a few keynotes, but the number one revenue generator in keynotes is being a good keynoter, having a great speech, being excellent on stage. How do you create an experience for your audience and not just a presentation? There's a big difference. And I think understanding how to create that in everything that you do, from your video to your website, to your branding, to the conversations that you have with individuals, I mean, it all matters. It's all about the experience that you provide.
And so just further to that, would you recommend basically not having anything at all until you've got it to that point? Like, is it going to do more harm than good having a subpar website or subpar links and social media?
No, I think everybody has to start out with what they have, but you have to ask yourself and have a serious conversation. Is what I have, is what I'm delivering, is what I've put together on my website, on my demo video, is that the best I can do? The attitude of, it's good enough, that's an extremely quick way to become irrelevant in this business. It's fine. That'll do. That's a really quick way to become irrelevant, because there's too many speakers and too many authors and too many coaches that are doing this at a high level in an amazing way at all different levels of experience and expertise. And so if where you're at in your journey and what you've put on your site and what you've created is the best that you can do right now, then wonderful. Then you go as far as you can see. And when you get there, get ready to go a little bit further. But there really is no barrier to entry in this industry. Anybody can literally change their LinkedIn profile and say, I'm a professional speaker. And you kind of could be, but to do it at a high level consistently where you can do this for a living, you're making consistent high fees working with top tier organizations and associations and businesses as the keynote speaker. Very, very, very few people do that. And it requires a specific level of excellence. So does it have to always be the top of the top, everything, expensive or elaborate? No, because that might not be where you're at. You might be just trying to scrape by to get 2 keynotes so you can create a demo video. Do the best with what you have, and quality always wins.
From an advice perspective, Clint, who are some of the best names that you can recommend that people go and deep dive on to learn how to become the best keynote presenters? And for me, one of them is Vin Giang out of Australia. I'm sure you heard of Vin.
Vin's a great friend. Yeah.
Brilliant. So, and for you, recommendations?
Yeah. Vin's incredible. Vin and I are managed by the same management company. And so Vin and I have known each other for, almost 6-7 years now. Vin would be a definite one to watch. Mark Scherenbrock would be another incredible person to watch. There's even Chad Hymas is amazing. Jason Hewlett, who you and I both know, is an incredible speaker. Phil Jones is another amazing speaker. And then you've got Ed Milet and Simon Sinek and some of the other well-known speakers that do a great job. But there's many speakers. I mean, Matt Townsend, you've probably never heard of him. The dude's amazing. One of the best speakers I've ever heard of. But he's very specific in his niche and what he does. But yeah, those would be a few of my board of mentors, some of my dear friends and people that have expedited my success, de-risked my failure rate in this business that I owe a lot to.
Yeah, that's some great names. And there's a couple of former guests on there as well. Chad Hymas, one of the most incredible, paralyzed with 85% of his body and still one of the most compelling speakers I've ever had the privilege of talking to, And Clint, like a lot of professional speakers and people in your space, do you, if for people that are maybe a bit further along that have the resources and the baseline, can they hire you to work one-on-one to work on these kind of things?
Yeah. I've worked one-on-one with speakers many times. Yeah, it's something that I don't necessarily promote or do a lot of, but with select individuals.
Is there anyone that you've mentored or worked with in the past, maybe in years gone by, that's blown up and that we might have heard of?
Two great speakers right now that are definitely worth following, and two gentlemen that I love and admire and I'm very proud of. Ryan Campbell out of Nashville, Tennessee, and Kyle Sheely, who lives in Wisconsin. Two up-and-coming speakers that I've had the opportunity to mentor and develop great relationship with, and they're absolutely crushing it right now on the circuit.
Man, you give me plenty of names to go back over and start doing some bread. It's amazing. It's amazing being in the space for as long as I have. I've interviewed 220 plus guests, probably about 20 Hall of Fame speakers, and I still don't recognize a lot of those names, And what's interesting, Clint, my wife and I just arrived back in Australia after being on the road for 2.5 years, and we went to Mexico and back and forth the United States, and in the US, my accent allows me to get away with blue murder. And since I've been back, we're in the Sunshine Coast, which is north of Brisbane here. It's a much smaller community. And what astounds me is the sheer number of people that say, and they talk to me for a little bit, they go, Laban, you got the real gift of the gab, What's your advice or your thoughts to those people about this whole gift of the gab versus a learned skill?
I think that some people have innate talents and gifts and abilities, and may be more naturally inclined to talk to large groups of people or love to be extroverted and carrying on conversations. I would even consider myself to be more of an introvert. People ask, do you want to go socialize with the client before the event? And do you want, no, that's not like my jam. But the people would never really suspect that, right? As a professional talker, a professional speaker. I love this philosophy. Disney, one of their principles is never show the cords. Never show the cords. And if you go to Disneyland, you'll never see a cord, like an electrical outlet, a plug. You're watching the ride, you're looking at the animatronics, the magic, and you just don't see the cords. And I love that. And I think communication is somewhat like that. Sometimes we're given a little bit more natural ability or instinct or talent, whatever you want to call it. But over time, I think to really master it, whether you're gifted with it or not, or you feel like you have it or you don't, it is a skill that is crafted and reps are required. And to the point where when you get up on stage or even in a conversation, they don't see the chords, but it's been rehearsed. It's been practiced, it's been thought through, it's been worked on, it's been reiterated and viewed and reviewed, and maybe feedback's been given, and how you hold a conversation or how you listen or how you have hard conversations can improve. And I think always in the world of communication, what a gift, right? What a powerful tool that I think always requires constant tweaking to the point where people don't necessarily see the chords and it becomes natural, it becomes authentic, it becomes moving, powerful. I think that's a beautiful part of communication.
And what I find fascinating as well, Clint, is if you were to guess, how many presentations have you given in your life off the top of your head?
Probably over 2,000 at this point. Yeah.
So you're talking at least 2,000 probably hours just in that. And that excludes all the rehearsals and all the other stuff you've done in between. So your 10,000 hours is looking pretty good in terms of mastery and dropping out the
Well, and it's hours, for all the hours that were not on stage. Those are just 2,000 hours on stage. It is all the hours of rehearsal and rewriting. It's a lot. Like, people sometimes, it blows them away at what some speakers get paid to say for 1 hour. But when you see the time, the effort, the energy, everything that's gone into creating that kind of magic. You know what I'm talking about. When you see someone on stage and it's like, that was unbelievable. That was a journey. That was a moment in time that I will never forget. That moved me to my core. Like, that's 10,000 hours. That is the unseen stuff behind the curtains of that stage that really make it what it is.
Hey, g'day there, and pardon the interruption. It's Laban Ditchburn here, affectionately known as the world's best courage coach. And if I'm someone that you've been listening to or watching on this podcast that you resonate with in some way, and you see me as being a possible solution to some of your biggest challenges, I would love to make available to you today a complimentary transformational coaching session. And I have limited space available. If this is something that resonates with you, go into the show notes or in the YouTube or the Rumble, find the scheduling link, book the time on your calendar, and let's get this started. Now, back to the show.
And, just from a personal point of view, Clint, I got to say, you are easily one of the best, technically brilliant speakers that I've ever seen. And I've, consumed a lot. And I was just fascinated to get to jump on this podcast with you today and ask you a few of these questions, really selfishly for myself, but I know other people will truly benefit, because it shocks me the number of people that don't link the gap between the work that you need to do and the link between being a brilliant, effective communicator. And seeing you present makes me sometimes think, oh, man, I like, how much more have I got to go? Because a lot of the time we spent when we're overseas, Clint, we were in countries like Mexico, India, and Colombia for the last 5 months. I don't speak very good Spanish. And so I'm not doing in-person keynotes. A lot of the stuff I was doing was with virtual, and I would say I'm very, very comfortable doing virtual. Now that we're back here, I'm putting myself out there to get booked for in-person keynotes, which is what I really love to do. And I love that energy. There's no comparison for being in person versus virtually,
Totally. And Gal, I'll never forget 2020, March 6th, 2020, when the whole world changed, and I lost 30 gigs that week. And it went from an amazing year and grit and determination and all the blood, sweat, and tears to get to that point in my career, to then, in a matter of a week and a half, everything disappeared, and we morphed into virtual, and it really weeded out a lot of individuals in our industry, because it became extremely tough. And so that's awesome to hear that you're still doing the virtual presentations. I'm sitting right now in my virtual studio that I created in 2020 that's still here. And it's been interesting to see the dynamics of the industry, as short a time that I've been a professional speaker, to watch how much it has changed, even to today, what people are booking and looking for.
I'm curious, Clinton, what percentage of those lost bookings ended up converting to virtual presentations later on?
Yeah, so they actually, the two events that didn't cancel were the saving grace that I credit so much of my success during that pandemic to. They canceled their live event, but they said, we will keep your original fee if you can do a virtual presentation. I had never done a virtual presentation in my life. I have drums. I mean, that's part of my show. How do you bring drums onto a Zoom call? How do you make this thing create an experience through a virtual platform? And it forced me, but it also was a blessing, because it gave me the budget to create something that was revolutionary, that was unlike anything else that had been done in a way that nobody else was doing during that time. And so because of those two events, I went all in, where many speakers were kind of, this will pass. Let's give it a few months. I'll be all right. I've got, and I just said, I got to go all in, because I want to keep this fee. I want to serve this client, and they're in a hard spot, and we got to make this epic. And doing that, and then creating the demo video, springboarded really a specific standard that could be achieved. Not that I'm saying that it was anything amazing, but it just showed clients, it showed bureaus, like, oh my gosh, like, this is another level. Like, we had light up drums, we had 5 different cameras, we had switchers, and it just created an experience. And then that springboarded into us having a halfway decent year during 2020, and then an even better year beyond that in the virtual space.
Yeah, that's awesome, Clint. And one of the guests on the podcast who then went on to write a beautiful endorsement of my book was Sean Kanungo, who I'm guessing you know or have heard of certainly, who was in the same situation as you, never done a virtual, and then ended up being given the award from Forbes magazine most best virtual keynote in the world for 2020. Like talk about, so pretty special stuff. You can't have been far behind, I tell you that much for nothing.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. Crazy time.
Clint, a question that I've got for myself again, and folks listening, I hope you don't mind me being selfish here. How do you navigate with your faith and turning work away from companies that you don't align with ethically or energetically or spiritually?
Yeah, for me, my wife, my family, and me, I made that decision a long time ago that there's certain values, there's certain core beliefs and things that I'm fully all in on, I guess is a good way to put it. And when an organization comes in that's not aligned with that, or does not promote that, or is unethical in that regard, or again, just a brand that I don't believe in or support or fully want to align myself with, then we've made that decision many times. And it's a full fee event, and it's at the end of the day, like there's just so much more than money. And it's not even a brand or a company that might not even align with what I'm doing. There's certain things in my life that I'm not going to miss. There's something to be said for financial affluence in this business, and then there's another thing to be said for time affluence. And thankfully, through a lot of hard work, we've reached a point where the financial side is sufficient for me and my life and my family, and the rest of it is now, how do I get more time affluent to where I have more time, where I can be home when I want to be home, and I can not miss the important sacred days and the moments that, as I've got 3 little kids, that there's just a lot of things I don't want to miss. And before COVID, dude, I was on the road. I had 112 events in a year. That was the highest amount of events that I'd ever done, and I'll never do that again. And so now the number is 50. I won't do more than 50 events a year, and we're approaching that number. And so then we'll roll it into next year. He's not available this year, but you can roll. And so it's being really focused on your core values, again, things that truly matter at the end of the day. And for me, that's my faith and my family. So
that's awesome, Clint. I appreciate that a lot. As we're coming to a conclusion, are you okay for time at the moment?
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about this book, I Love It Here, that came out 2.5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Just for the folks listening, just a quick overview of what the book's all about and what you intended to achieve when you wrote it.
Yeah, so 6.5 years ago, I started a research project called the Undercover Millennial Program. And I'm a millennial. That's the generation I was born in. So I would go undercover into organizations as a young person looking for a job. And I would interview them, and I would say, hey, I'm just thinking about applying. What's it like to work here? And the employees would tell me everything. And we worked with hundreds of organizations. And as of this year, I've interviewed over 11,000 employees undercover. And we created a book called I Love It Here. And that's why I titled it that, because that was the magic of all of the research, is when I would go undercover and I'd say to an employee, I'm just curious, what's it like to work here? And when they would say, I love it here. I love my job. Why? What were those leaders doing? What were the managers doing? What were the bosses doing to create that kind of a response in an employee? And then the next employee and the next. And they created a culture where people didn't just survive at work, but they actually thrived. And it took me 4 years to write the book. I'll never write another book again. I've said that for many years, and I still stand by that. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done in my life, but I'm so proud of it. It's probably some of my best work in my professional life, and I'm really proud of it. But it took a lot. It took a lot to write something that was different, unique, captivating. You're taking all of this research and you're combining it into something that moves the needle, right? It's not just some, this is like, I think there's like, somebody told me there's like 15 leadership books published every like 6 hours or something. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot. There's a lot in this space. And I wanted to create something that wasn't just a calling card, that wasn't just a book because you need a book in this industry, but something that was truly a management classic, something that 5 years from now, it would still be selling. it would still be relevant. And, we're 2.5 years out and the book's still performing very well. And it's still influencing a lot of people. And still to this day, my career and my keynote is founded upon that. So it took a lot of work. I'll never do it again, but I'm really glad that I did.
Never say never, Clint, is what I've learned. And because and it is a brilliant book. It is someone who, because people like Shep Hyken and Scott McCain have been former guests as well. I've developed a real intrigue in customer experience, and I find myself going out of my way to ring organizations to let them know how they can improve stuff. And sometimes it's really well received, and sometimes it's, because I become a big brand ambassador for brands and products that I really love and utilize, and I want them to succeed. And when I can see them doing detrimental things to themselves, it's like, hey, let me help you. And so who knows, maybe there's a pathway later on for Laban to talk about these kind of things as well. I got some great stories in there. But Clint, I'm very, very appreciative and respectful of your time. And I've grossly underestimated just how much time we needed today, because you have such an incredibly broad and diverse background and interest. And we haven't really even touched on the helicopter stuff or really had an opportunity to share many of these stories. So maybe there's an opportunity for you to come on the show another time in the future. My encouragement would be, I would love to read a book about you, like a memoir style book. And I know never say never, but, mine has transformed my life. It did a lot of healing and it's helped a lot of people through the raw vulnerability that I was able to display there. And just that's my encouragement from one professional to another. Do with that what you will. But Clint, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, all the usual places. Your website is clintpulver.com, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the social media platforms. Yeah, reach out anytime. Anything I can do to help and support people, I'm in.
Brilliant. Hey, Clint, do you have any concluding thoughts for our amazing audience today?
I guess the one thing that I would maybe just leave is something that I look back on, and we've talked a lot about just my career and the speaking industry, is there's a difference in being successful in your life and truly being significant in your life. And at the end of a life, I don't care what any of us do, none of us are getting out of life alive. And at the end of that life, I think everybody will be surrounded by two things. You'll be surrounded by the woulda, shoulda, couldas, or you'll be surrounded by the do it, did it, done it's. And to do things in your life that have a level of significance, not just success, I believe is a life well lived. And my mantra, and something that I believe in and strive to create my brand around, is that it's not about being the best in the world. It's about being the best for the world. And that's what I cherish the most about my job, is that every day, and when I'm on stage, off stage, everything that we're striving to do is to be the best for the world, to be the best for that organization, to be the best for my friends, to be the best for my family. Can we create an organization that, because of maybe something that I said, or maybe something that I did, that a manager might implement to the point that their team goes home better moms, and they go home better dads, because work is a fulfilling experience. It's a significant experience, and then because of that, we might create better families. What an ideal. What a thing for me that's achieved a level of passion, purpose, and the ability to provide, and it's something I'm grateful for. So, something to think about. How am I striving to not just be the best in the world at what I do, but how can I be the best for the world at what I do? And that's something I think everybody at one point will remember you for, thank you for, and again, will mark a life well lived.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clint Pulver.